My name is Lilia McEnany, and I am an assistant curator at the Museum of Indian Arts and Culture. And as you all know, we are here to chat with Duhon James. So a few things before we start. To begin, I would like to briefly acknowledge the place where this conversation is happening, even though we are in a virtual space, even and not physically at the museum today, in Ogopoge within the Tsaile world. As a non-native person living in so-called Santa Fe, I am a guest in the ancestral homelands of the Tsaile people. And I wish to acknowledge all of the indigenous folks, Pueblo, Navajo, Apache, so many others, past, present, and future, who walk on these lands and steward this place. And I would encourage everybody watching here today to also think about your relationship to the land on which you inhabit. So for those of you who are not familiar, the Goodman Aspiring Artist Fellowship was established at MIAC by Dr. and Mrs. Connie Goodman, who are wonderful friends, members, and supporters of the museum. The fellowship is designed to provide financial assistance to up-and-coming Native artists who show promise and are eager to move to the next level of their development. Goodman Fellowships have often opened doors to other opportunities for recipients, such as an artist residency at the School for Advanced Research or the Santa Fe Art Institute, invitations to markets throughout the Southwest, as well as gallery and museum exhibitions. So this program is the 7th in our lecture series with our Goodman Fellows. Recordings of each of these events are available on our YouTube channel, and the conversations are going to continue on a monthly basis throughout the year, generally on the 4th Wednesday of every month at 10 a.m. like we are today. Please watch MIAC's newsletter and social media for future dates. James was born in Tuba City, Arizona on the Navajo Nation. He is a recent alum of the Institute of American Indian Arts in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where he received his Bachelor of Fine Arts with an emphasis in ceramics and printmaking. In 2011, he received his Associate of Arts in Fine Arts at Dine College in Arizona. He has shown his work at the Eggman and Walrus Gallery Emporium in Santa Fe and the Balzer Contemporary Edge Gallery at IAIA. He now resides in Ganado, Arizona. So with that, I'll hand it over to you.
Hello, my name is Duhon James. I'm from Ganado, Arizona. Shiprock, Duhon James, and Shen Topahan, Shen Torachini, Bashichin, Panarakin, Dashiche, Ashihan, Dashinella. I live in Ganado, Arizona. I used to live in Santa Fe, just going to school and work in the past 8 years. And just recently in the winter time, we moved back to Ganado. And yeah, we live here now in Ganado.
Great. So I think how we're going to structure this presentation is I'm going to show a brief slideshow of Duhon's work, and then we'll have more of a conversation about his artistic practice and how he got into printmaking and all of that kind of stuff. So with that, I'm going to share my screen, and then Duhon, I will let you take it from there.
Okay. And this print here, it's a linoleum block print that I did a few years ago, 7 colors. The title of this is Wishtant, which means welcome or come in the Navajo language. And the title for that is Wishtant, come in, abduction under 3 stars. The reason of this is because the image stuck with me for 10 years. It seemed like I encountered something that was outside of the world. It was just like an orb that was just hovering above me for about 3 to 5 seconds, and it shot back into the sky. And so that stuck with me. And finally, I drew this image, and that's the reason why of the UFO taking a Hogan, is because my parents and my siblings used to live in a Hogan, and my older sister and I lived next door. So when I saw that orb above me at night, it just seemed like it lasted longer, but it was only for about 5 seconds. So I quickly ran to my mom and wondering if she saw anything like bright coming through the windows or anything like that. And she said no. So I went back to the house, and I just, being scared, I just got my stuff and then went back to my mom's. So that's how that imagery comes in with the Hogan. And then on the left side, you have the 3 stars of Orion's belt that are in red, and then water, sheep, the corn stalk. And then on the very top, you have the 2 phases of the moon and the Big Dipper on the left side. And on the very bottom right corner, you have a symbol that I came up with The word sea, it's not a sea, but it's just an image of a top view of a home facing east with the four mountains. And then the word was stamped with the high tones, low tones, and the glottal stop within the Navajo language, the dialects. So this one, it got me recognized at the time in 2017 and 18, and a lot of people were asking about this print. And I usually do 5 prints. Sometimes I'll do 10, but since this one was a reductive color process, I just stuck with 5. And from there, we just transferred onto blank greeting cards. We just reduced the image. And it's become one of the popular prints that I've done in the past. So yeah, that's what the print is here with this one. And this block print is a linoleum too. It's done on white stonehenge paper, 22 by 30. This image here is about me and Charlotta. When we lived in Santa Fe, during COVID-19, we were planning to move back, but that's when a lot of restrictions came in about, lockdowns and not going anywhere. So I did this print of us and just imagining of us living back home. And so therefore you have the Hogan on top, and on the left side you have like a wood pile and a roping dummy. Right side, it's just a horse and sheep corral, and the Hogan facing east with the sunrise. And on the bottom, corn and water, but mainly it's just like an overnight prayer of living together, which is that, that's the title of it. So in a way, we're praying to this fire to have safe travels, to be together, to kind of bring positive things into life, which has become that with our son, Kinsley, who is 10 months now. He was born in January 2021. So that's what the purpose of this print was too. We're praying for something to come into our lives to help, bring us together more and to be stronger together. So that's what I did with this block print. And with this one, time lapse, the mine, I did 5 prints of this back in 2018. And then I did another second batch back in 2019, but I only did 2 prints. So this one here, you're just matching up with time, just like how this presentation is. We're dealing with time. With life, it's like you're always being timed with everything. You got to get to a certain point within minutes or an hour. And with this, the center of the block print, you have a Navajo basket, which kind of represents anything in the Navajo culture. This one, I thought it was like kind of like a combination lock, like you're trying to match up certain patterns within that basket, and there's an opening down on the bottom. And with that, you have water coming down, and then the corn stalk, and in between those corn stalks, those dots, they represent water. And then the Hogan's there, and the goats. And from there, it's just matching up the patterns again. You have the corn stalk and the Hogan's that are upside down, and you have the 2 of them, the ones in the center that are the right way. And then on the very top of the basket, you have the moon and the sun, and those 2 in a way are in a relationship because of the rings that are around it. And then again, I keep adding the Big Dipper and the 3 stars, and I did the planets in there, and then a little trail of comets. And then on the very top, you have the 4 sacred mountains. And then you have like these lines, which, satellite that goes around Earth, they take pictures, or it feels like they're listening on people's conversations, like right now. That's just something that I was drawn into because, coming back home, I'm always used to seeing a big open sky, comparing it to Santa Fe, we're just really closed in. You don't really have a night sky in a way to look at the stars. So when I got back home, or when we moved back, I always showed Charlotte, like, oh, that's a satellite going around, because it's different from a plane or just anything that has blinking lights. There's always those satellites that go around Earth, and the ones that actually stay still. In a way, they're moving slow, but those are the stars. But it's the satellites that always brought to my attention on what the reason is with them, along with the weather, land erosion, or anything like that. So, and it's just based off of time. And this one here, I did 2020. It's just an image of aliens coming down to Shiprock Flea Market, looking into history books, native books, or just Navajo books. There's always these photographers who take pictures of tourists or traders coming in to trade off with Navajos. And so I wanted to kind of do something off of that, kind of that resembles like aliens coming in, buying rugs, buying fry bread, coffee, just what you see here in the print. And in the background, you have the Shiprock there. So I always wanted to do a print of Shiprock. So this is what it is. And you have aliens there buying jewelry, hats, having water, coffee, burritos. The one that I like the most in this picture are the two aliens who just bought a rug, and there's a Navajo lady standing next to them. And that's what I had in my mind, my imagination, to create this block print. And it was challenging because with linoleum block print, you have to draw everything in reverse. You have to write the words backwards to be printed the right way. So this one was challenging for me because I'm dealing with letters, and I wanted it to be printed the right way also. So I had to draw everything in reverse, and it does confuse me most of the time with what I'm printing. I got to make sure that I do have my letters right, or if there's a certain image that I want to stick with to be printed, the wrong way, it doesn't really matter. But, if I want it to be printed the right way, then I will have to do everything in reverse with this image here. And that goes with a lot of my prints that I do. So this one is just going to Shiprock, aliens coming down, buying whatever they can at the flea market, jewelry, just like Santa Fe Indian Market. You have these tourists coming in, they buy whatever it is that they want to get their hands on. So this is just a little something small dealing with the flea market. So, and this one here, Second Night Chants Are Stronger is the title for this one. And this one I did in 2019. Again, I did this one in reverse and messing with lighting, trying to balance like the background black and where they're standing by the fire. It's just, the lighting part of it and the shadows. And so this one, in a way, with the two UFOs in the background with the static, is that they flew around Earth. They're picking up people singing, chanting. So they're wondering why or where this signal was coming in from. And so they flew around, and finally they picked up the signal, and they landed there, and they noticed the Navajos, or just, the people, were having a ceremony. And in the background too, you have a little, like a little shelter or a shade house where they prepared the food and where they gathered just to chat, just like, going to lunch, going to a cafeteria, you meet people and you chat. So from there with the fire, they're singing with the people there. The reason why they're doing that is because of the ceremony. Whoever they're praying to or whoever they're helping, that's what the reason is for this. And for this one, it helps with healing and chanting and trying to get over that mourning. And this one usually happens in the summertime. It's just like a week ceremony, 1 week that it happens. And usually like the second night, they'll light this bonfire at midnight. So that's what, the reason there I wanted to try and play with is just try to have these aliens interact with native people or just Navajo people. And then you have the young alien there with his hands up holding feathers. He's the one kind of making it more useful, making it work, chanting louder and louder. And then you have the lady there on the left with the alien, kind of leaning on her just to help her get through whatever she's going through. And so that's the story behind this print here. And it's just something that I've been wanting to do for 2 years, and I finally got to it. And it's just one of those that helped me get recognized and just kind of introduce aliens or to combine aliens with Navajo culture. And we look to them as like star people. Sometimes I wonder where we go after life, if we become another human being or do we actually become one of the stars. So that's what this plays into. And that's the reason why I put those crosses on top, which represent stars. And then just a little textile work. And yeah, so that's the story behind this one. And this one I did a lady who reached out to artists from Gallup. She told us about, they're building a courthouse, another addition to the courthouse. So she reached out to artists to submit, and this is what the McKinley County Courthouse in Gallup, New Mexico purchased, along with other artists, and with my wife, Charlotta, they purchased a painting from her. So this one, it was a lot for me to take in because, whenever a buyer, collector, or a new buyer buys my prints, it means a lot to me. It means a lot that it's going to a person's home or it's going to a community that will come in and look into each floor. And so this one, it means a lot to me that, I have my prints hanging up in a public building and, people get to see my work. And this is what they purchased from me along with other artists. And we got to go to the opening there, the ribbon cutting that happened, I think it was in October. And, I wanted to go straight up to my prints, but I looked at every other artist there too. And when I got to mine, I got really emotional. And with COVID-19 happening, it was hard to lose that connection between buyers because I'm always used to going to art markets. I always talked about my works, the processes, the meaning behind it. And when people came by my prints, I spoke to them about it and I got emotional about it. I was about to cry, and because I missed that feeling, and to interact with people, to actually, these buyers, these viewers get to see these artists, they get to see me, they actually want to hear these stories behind these prints. So this one here, it's at the McKinley County Courthouse in Gallup, New Mexico on the south side. I believe it's on the 3rd floor. So if you have time, you can stop there and look at artist works. And so this one is one of them that means a lot to me. And, it's just something that keeps me going and going and going, because I know people out there will like what I'm doing, or they'll enjoy what I'm doing. And they always come back to me about, oh, I bought this print, so and so likes it. And so that's the reason why I tend to keep going with my block prints.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. I especially love the Shiprock flea market piece. And I'm sure a lot of people have more specific questions about individual works. But I would like to kind of continue the conversation more broadly, talking about your artistic journey and kind of how you got to where you are today.
With my journey, it started at Dine College as a fine arts major, as an associate's degree. And the instructors there, I feel like they knew which students want to continue in art. So they told me that, check out the Institute of American Indian Arts. So I looked into their website, and then from there I applied to their bachelor's program, the Bachelor's of Fine Arts. And when I got there, my major was ceramics, and that was my senior thesis, was ceramics. But in my senior year, I got introduced to printmaking. So I had no clue what it was. A friend of mine took the course, and she told me about it. So I took that course, and that's how I learned how to do wood blocks, linoleum, dry point, monoprints, monotypes. And from there, I was trying to balance out, ceramics and printmaking, or if I could combine those two as my senior show, but, I had to pick one or the other. And so I stuck with ceramics because I already knew how far I got with ceramics, and I didn't want to be working more into printmaking to get up to a senior level. So with that, from there, I graduated in 2014 with a bachelor's degree in ceramics, or just maybe in studio arts in general. So that's how it all started, was just at Dine College, and then transferred to IAIA. And from there, I've been going to other art markets that I can get into. So.
Do you still do any work in ceramic?
No, because it's just having a kiln to purchase that.
Yeah.
There's always like the bisque firing, or to the traditional firing process, but I find printmaking more like available for me to do, because it's just hands-on, and you lay everything out on the floor or on the table, however the studio works.
That makes sense. So that's amazing. And really shows, I think in a lot of these conversations, IAIA always comes up, and their incredible mentorship and guidance for young artists. So with that, can you tell us a little bit about what your creative process looks like?
Creative process, it's just when I'm going to be doing block prints, I either draw directly onto the block, or I just sketch it out and transfer it onto the block. And from there I just carve, and then I don't have an etching press, so everything's just done by hand press. So I use a baron or a wooden spoon, and from there I just lay out my paper, and then just square out my block, and then from there I just start printing. It usually takes about a week. There's a few times that I came across, like with aqua inks or oil inks and water-based inks. I learned each of them, water and aqua dries faster than from oil. Oil takes about maybe 2 weeks or maybe a month for it to dry. So it was just difficult to go through those three types of inks that printmaking had.
Yeah, I had no idea that you were hand pressing all of these. That's really incredible to be able to do that.
Yeah, and and I took a course one semester in 2019, spring of 2019. There were it was lithography at IAIA again, and we were doing limestone, but that got canceled. So they found a easier and faster way of doing that. So we used a photo positive plate, just like screen printing, exposing it onto the screen, but you're exposing it onto a photo positive plate. That one was a longer process. I learned a lot in that, and when I had that opportunity to see that open gap, so I did more block prints, and I did the photo positive plates. But just having access to a studio was much easier and faster. So I just quickly did block prints. I carved, and I went to the studio, and I was at the studio all day, just printing. But before that, it was just hand press, and still is today. I still hand press all my blocks.
Wow. So speaking of process, we have a question from Rob who asks if you have a sketchbook to work out your ideas.
Yes, I do. I usually have like just a basic 8x10 or a larger sketchbook, which is newsprint, 18 by 24. It's just something big just to work off of, because the blocks that I do are the same size of the newsprint, 18 by 24. So I just either again like just sketch on the newsprint, or I just do directly onto the block.
And in thinking about all of this, it's just incredible to me, your perspectives on time and space and how they come across in such creative ways on these block prints. So I guess I'm wondering why you work in printmaking. Like, what is it about that medium that really speaks to you?
At the time when it was introduced to me, um, it was just one of those times where it was just like a struggle, or it was hard to get to because of everything was in reverse. The long process of printing, like laying down your inks, using the paper size, or if you want to reduce the paper size. Um, I didn't know I was going to have enough patience to do any of that, but I did. I do. And it's a different feeling from painting, from ceramics too. But, at the time when I was doing printmaking, I don't know, maybe it was just me or if it was just another person of me, but it just felt like I was the only person doing linoleum block prints at the time. I think it was just in my mind, like, there's no other person. So, but after I graduated, after I just opened my mind, I looked up printmaking, and there are people out there throughout the states who are doing different types of printmaking works. So again, I just wasn't too sure if printmaking even exists outside of education. And doing more of these art markets, I come across a few printmakers. Um, they were like, "Oh, this is a woodblock." Like, yeah, no, it's a linoleum, but it's the same process. You're carving, you're cutting, you're reversing everything. So I just feel like I have more patience, or more relaxing, and in a way, it challenges my mind on how to work with my stuff, because as an artist, you have to take control of your artwork and not have the artwork take control over you. So that's how I have to kind of sketch everything out. And yeah, so that's what I do with my work.
Shifting a bit, I would love to talk a little bit more about the content side of things now. as I mentioned earlier, I absolutely love the Shiprock flea market piece, and as well as that first piece that you showed of the UFO taking the Hogan. And just thinking about like the with the Shiprock piece in particular, just thinking about the imposition of settler colonialism and capitalism and thinking of those as like alien influences is how I was interpreting things. But we have a question from Paul who's asking about if there have been other Navajo traditions or Navajo folks talking about contact with aliens or UFOs.
I've come across that at art markets. It's just the same. Like I see lights far out. We weren't too sure if they were cops or whatever lights that are out there. There's some that might have encountered like maybe sight above them, like in the night sky. Sometimes I feel like I do. When we used to travel back from Santa Fe to Ganado, but sometimes at that Route 66 truck stop, going down that hill, you're getting distracted by looking up into the night sky. So I had to go back to the road and then go back up. But it feels like, there's something that does fly above that truck stop. But yeah, I get the same story that there's always lights out and about, or there's always something flying above them, or it just didn't seem right, like comparing it to a plane that flies at night, or emergency lights, or a satellite. But sometimes I feel like I do see something like that above, way beyond the stars, because when you stare at one star, you'll see something move slowly, and then you have to kind of like pause everything, or you have to be zoned into that just to focus on what it is. But after a while, it kind of disappears and it'll blend in with the stars that you can't even see beyond the point.
Yeah, and just the vast expanse of the night sky out there, I think it would be hard not to see something. So I did want to ask you specifically about the Goodman Fellowship and kind of how that impacted your work and just how it impacted your work.
With the Goodman Fellowship, it helped me out a lot with paper, ink, just mainly the printmaking supplies. It really helped me out a lot. I even got to meet the Goodmans at the Santa Fe Indie Market 2019, and she actually bought 2 of my greeting cards, and I just told them thank you, thanking them for helping me out as an artist, and it really pushed me, and it meant a lot to me to get that fellowship. And with the writing process, the submissions, there's whatever that goes into that, and it does drain you out. You have to really be on top of it, or you have to use the right words to get something like that, I think. But when I met them, I just told them thank you. I kind of cried a little, and just again telling them that it means a lot to me, and for Rob for reaching out to me too, because he was at markets that I was in Bernalillo or Jemez, Pueblo, just whatever that's outside of Santa Fe. I always saw Rob there, and he was always like, you got to apply for this, you do the Goodmans, So I gave it a shot, and sure enough, I got accepted, and I was happy. And again, it just helped me out a lot with printmaking supplies, and I needed work to get done, so that's when that came into the right place, and it helped me a lot.
Yeah, huge shout out to Rob Lucas, who handles a lot of the magic behind the scenes for the fellowship and for my ex programming generally. So we might be wrapping up a little bit early today, but we have a few more questions here. I think, okay, let me see here. Okay, so next we have a question from Rona Reed, who says that your work shows a deep respect for women, their daily life and work and family. Is this aspect of your work part of your personal upbringing as well as your cultural history?
Yes, it is. Because I'm not sure if it plays with other um, cultures or like just anybody out there, but with Navajo people, it seems like the women are always taking care of everything. It seems like they want to not to have control, but to have a meaning in life that they're here to balance everything. And that's the reason why I tend to use women in my prints as an educator or someone taking care of livestock. Just like in the print, she keeps life growing as her husband fights. That's just based off of a woman who's taking care of everything as her husband is in war. So like in World War II, men were off the war and the women were at home taking care of just everything. And that's what I look at as my mom. My mom, she takes care of a lot of stuff, and same for Charlotta. She takes care of her son. She does a lot. She does a lot, and I do a lot too, but it's just mostly outside. But I try to have Charlotta help me with a lot of my printmaking stuff. I ask her about this. What do you think about this? So, but yeah, I do. There's a lot of ladies out there, but mainly Annie Dodgewanika was one of them who meant a lot to me. I didn't get to meet her, but I read a book about her. She did a lot for the Navajo people. She was awarded by the United States with medals. And 20, 40 years later, at her time, finally she got recognized by the Navajo Nation. So it just, again, like it takes a lot to get recognized, especially if we're back home. Um, but for my mom, she does a lot. So that's the reason why I tend to do a lot of my block prints around just women.
Fantastic. So building off that a little bit, I wonder what you hope your work achieves.
My work, I want my work to help me out. I want it to give me hope that this is the reason why you're here. To keep doing what you're doing. I always tell myself that you might not like your work, but somebody out there will like your work. So I do my best with my block prints or my mono prints. I try to make everything seem similar with living a lifestyle here on the res or living in the city. Just trying to combine aliens with Navajo culture or just native culture. And I just hope, for my prints to give me that recognition. There's always people who come back to me saying that they love a print of mine. There's times when the buyer got really emotional about the story. So that's the reason why I have that connection with buyers or viewers. Is because every print that I do as an artist, I always like to tell stories. That's what I hope for my prints to do for me, is to tell stories about me and the processes of it. And yeah, that's what I hope for, is for them to get me through.
That is a lovely answer. And I think that's a perfect place to wrap up for the morning. Thank you all for being here. And thank you so much, Duhon, for sharing your work with us and all of the incredible projects that you're working on. And I know everybody at MIAC is extraordinarily excited to see what you do next. And thank you all for joining us this morning. All right, have a good day.